Wander over yonder, in The Return to Equestria, written by Angel Shy 24, Kitty Hijinks. After Twilight and her friends had their short little meeting, they all exited out of the castle together to head out to finish up their individual preparations for the celebration that would take place the next day. Rainbow Dash decided to fly off for now, and Pinkie Pie went off to help out Mr. and Mrs. Cake, but Twilight, Rarity, Applejack and Fluttershy decided to hang out a bit more while being with their alien friends, Wander and Sylvia, in good company. "Well, that meetin' might have been a bit short and quick," said Wander, "but all that matters is that things were taken care of and things were settled as planned." "Am I right, Sil?" "Whatever makes you happy, buddy," said Sylvia, smirking. "And now that it is all done and we have successfully reintroduced ourselves to this wonderful town, what do you want to do next?" "I bet there's all sorts of cool stuff to do around here." "A lot more than you may think," said Applejack. "There's plenty of things to do here. Ponyville is a pretty resourceful place." Sylvia then got curious and showed a small grin as she asked, "So, would you say that this town could have, I don't know, a fight club?" All ponies suddenly stopped and looked at Sylvia, wondering why she brought up such a topic. I'm afraid that we have none of those here in Ponyville," said Twilight, "but, if enough ponies here were interested, I suppose we could start one." "Are you out of your mind, Twilight?" Rarity protested. "We can't let something like that happen here. Fight clubs are just senseless excuses for others to fight and beat each other up in front of spectators who encourages them and bet money on them. It's completely barbaric." Fluttershy was the only one who truly agreed with Rarity. I have to agree with Rarity. Fight clubs do seem a bit excessive." "Oh, come on now," said Sylvia. "It's not always about fighting and exchanging fists or hooves. There's more to it than that." "Like what, darling?" Rarity questioned. Sylvia tried to come up with something, but she wasn't sure what else she could use to describe her topic. Then she whispered to Wander, "Wander, help me out here." Wander thought about it and said, "Well, I don't know what other purposes fight clubs may have, but maybe they are a way to create communism. Yeah, it brings others together to connect fists and butt heads, not to just feel strong but to exchange words and feelings to understand one another, maybe." "Yeah, I don't think so," Applejack chuckled. "But that was a good try anyway." Sylvia just sighed, realizing that she was out of luck here. "Well, it doesn't matter, I guess. There are more important things than that anyway." "Glad to hear," said Twilight. "So what do you want to do? A stroll through the park? Have a bite at the Hay Burger joint? Go bowling? Visit Cloudsdale?" Oh, that all sounds awesome," shouted Wander excitedly. "Maybe we can do it all." "I'd love to join you two to do all of that, except bowling," said Fluttershy hesitantly. "Lots of heavy balls rolling everywhere." "Don't know if I can," said Applejack. "Gotta finish preparing for tomorrow, you know. Although, some hay burgers sounds good." As they were walking, Sylvia was curiously looking around the town, getting a good reminder of where things were. But then, she saw something at the corner of her eye as she turned to the side of her. She saw a group of young fillies she knew that they were expecting a visit from. "Hey, Wander," she whispered to him, "isn't that Apple Bloom and her two Crusader friends over there?" Wander suddenly looked over at where Sylvia was pointing to. He suddenly saw the three fillies too as he shouted, "Oh my gosh, it sure is." He then began jumping up and down and waving his hand while shouting louder, "Hey, Apple Bloom, Sweetie Belle, Scootaloo, over here." In the distance, Apple Bloom heard someone call her name and was looking around trying to see who it was. But then she looked ahead and saw Wander grinning and jumping up down while waving both of his arms. "Oh my gosh!" Apple Bloom suddenly shouted excitedly, "Sweetie Belle, Scootaloo, look! It's them, Wander and Sylvia. They're right over there. Come on." Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle looked ahead and saw what Apple Bloom was talking about. They were hoping to run into them soon. All three then ran towards the group, excited to see the alien duo again. However, they all seemed to be pulling a small wagon behind them. But what was in it? "Hello again, Apple Bloom," shouted Wander with his arms wide open. "But since I've met you again already, I'll save this big greeting hug for those two." Wander then went past Apple Bloom and wrapped his arms around both Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo, giving both of them a huge, tight hug. They expected no less treatment from him and were okay with it, even though they could barely breathe. "It's so great to see you two again," said Sweetie Belle after Wander released them. "When Apple Bloom told us that you were here again, we couldn't believe it." "Oh, believe it," Wander stated. "Yeah, we still remembered how awesome you two were fending off that evil alien guy," said Scootaloo, "and to think you two deal with him all of the time." "Well, maybe not all of the time," said Wander, "but more like 80% or more of the time. And even though he keeps trying to destroy us, We always have a lot of fun with him." Sylvia chuckled, knowing just how right Wander was. "So what are you three little tykes up to recently, besides preparing for tomorrow?" "Oh, you know," said Scootaloo, "just our usual hanging out together, striving for our cutie marks, just being girls, stuff like that. But speaking of tomorrow, this party celebration is going to be awesome." "Yeah, there's going to be lots of fun things to do there," shouted Sweetie Belle, "and the fact that this is the first time that we're attending a party for an actual princess, how wonderful is that?" Twilight suddenly arched her eyebrow and said towards Sweetie, hello? You've been to a birthday party of mine's, remember?" "Ha! Oh, yeah," said Sweetie Belle sheepishly, "but, in my defense, that was technically before you became a princess, heh? But it was still fun though." Twilight just brushed her hoof on top of Sweetie Belle. "It's okay. I was just messing with ya." While they were all enjoying themselves talking to Wander and Sylvia again, Applejack couldn't help but notice the wagon behind her sister. She quietly walked over to it and looked inside it. She froze for a moment staring at what she saw and then called to her sister's attention. Apple Bloom, would you or one of your friends care to explain of what's in this wagon that you're pulling?" Twilight, Rarity, Fluttershy, Wander and Sylvia were quite curious of what Applejack saw. When they all looked inside of the wagon, there was a mixture of different reactions, mainly Fluttershy, whose eyes lit up and stated, "Ah, what a cute little kitten. She looks so adorable I could just eat her up." And not literally, of course. "Well, what do you know," said Sylvia, "the little rascals found themselves a new friend." Unknown to Wander, Sylvia and the rest, it was Little Bits in the same attire from when the Crusaders found her, but she looked and smelled cleaner. But fortunately for our alien duo, she was curled up in the wagon fast asleep. Apple Bloom came up to her sister with a nervous grin and told her, "Why yeah, we were going to tell you in a minute, but we found this kitten near our clubhouse. She fell out of the tree, but she was okay and she seemed to have taken a liking to us." "That is quite the fashionable little dress that she's wearing," said Rarity. "Wherever did you get it?" "That's the strangest thing, she was already wearing it when we saw her, and she wasn't even wearing a collar. So we did the next best thing, we took her to the barn, cleaned her and spruced her up a bit. I even washed the dress to get rid of the unusual fishy odor that it was giving off. Oh, and speaking of fishy, sis, I hope you don't mind that we gave her that leftover fish dish that we had in the fridge to her. She ate it right up and then fell fast asleep soon afterwards. We're guessing that she has been through a lot, but we chose to not dwell on that." Applejack was quite surprised that her sister and her friends did all of that in the time that had passed. It showed just how much of a responsible young pony she was growing up to be. "Wow, Apple Bloom. You and your friends really did all of that, without me saying anything?" "Why yeah. Is it bad that we did?" No, it isn't bad at all, you just surprised me a bit is all." Way to take charge of the situation. Wander had his head hanging right over the wagon looking down at the kitten grinning brightly and telling his friend, just look at her, Sylvia, with her little whiskers and light blue fur and the cutesy dress. Isn't she the most adorable little kitten you've ever seen?" "Ha! Oh, yeah, she's pretty adorable I guess," Sylvia responded. She was still looking at the kitten, but something felt weird to her. She narrowed her eyes as she looked more closely at the kitten's appearance, thinking to herself, "What's going on here? Why am I getting a weird feeling in my gut just by looking at her? It's like I've seen her somewhere before, but where exactly?" "Well, it was mighty nice of you three to help out a stray kitten like that," said Twilight, "but what are you planning to do with her?" "We don't know just yet," said Sweetie Belle as suddenly looked at her sister sheepishly, "but, until we do, we were hoping that maybe one of us could look after her, or maybe, keep her indefinitely." Applejack and Rarity suddenly looked at each other with unsure faces, hoping that they wouldn't upset their sister with any disappointment of their decision. Rarity looked at them and said, I'm not sure if I should have another cat in the boutique. I love my Opal, really I do, but she can be a real handful, a bit stubborn, a bit rebellious and a bit. But, that doesn't stop me from loving her. She sure sounds like a little fluff of sunshine," said Sylvia sarcastically. "What about us, Applejack?" Apple Bloom pleaded. "Could she maybe stay with us? It would be nice to have a cat on the farm, don't you think?" "I'm not so sure about that either," Applejack responded, but then she looked at the sleeping kitten and smiled, seeing just how cute she was, and said, "But, I guess she could stay with us until we know what to do with her." "All right," shouted Apple Bloom as she latched onto her sister tightly. "Thanks, Applejack. You're the best sister ever." Okay, take it down a notch, little sis." Scootaloo went over looking at the kitten again and stated, "Dang, she's still asleep. How does she do it? Maybe she's a heavy sleeper, said Fluttershy. I'm kind of a heavy sleeper myself. So did you give her an appropriate name yet? Asked Wander. We named her Snowball, said Scootaloo. We figured that it fits with her fur color. Snowball, said Sylvia, a bit cliché, but acceptable. Suddenly, Rarity let out a huge gasp as she remembered an important matter that she needed to do. Oh sweet Celestia, I almost forgot. There are these fabrics in my basement that I need to organize and donate to the charity house, and they close in a few hours. Charity? Said Wander. I love charities. It's all about giving away stuff you don't necessarily need to ones that need it more. It's like being a superhero to the less fortunate. Wow, I never thought of it that way, said Twilight. The Crusaders were suddenly huddling together for a second to discuss something. After breaking up, Sweetie Belle looked at her sister and asked, Hey, Rarity? Could the Crusaders and I possibly come with you and help? We're not doing anything right now. Rarity wasn't quite sure of her younger sister's request. Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure if I should, but if we do, you could be done with it much faster, stated Apple Bloom. Yeah, that way you won't have to rush yourself so much, said Scootaloo. We'll do anything you say. Rarity was looking at the three fillies as they were lightly smiling at her and she was feeling nervous of what to say. But her final answer was, very well, I suppose I could use a few extra hooves in this matter. And, if you bring that kitten with you, just make sure that she won't get her claws on anything. I don't think that will be a problem, said Apple Bloom. She's been pretty well behaved so far. Wander felt that it was a bit disappointing of the Crusaders coming in and then going out so soon and pleaded, leaving as soon after we just met again? Maybe you need another set of hands to help out, or look after your cute little kitty. Sylvia pulled Wander back, preventing him from getting involved in something that didn't need his expertise. Oh no you don't. I think they have enough help, Wander. Besides, what about other things to do here? We'll see them again. Yeah, don't worry, said Scootaloo. We'll come and see you two again before tomorrow. The day is still young, mostly. Come on, girls, let us hurry. Rarity called out, this day is not getting any younger you know. The Crusaders then left with Rarity while pulling the sleeping kitty along with them. See ya later, Wander. Apple Bloom shouted, see ya later, Sylvia. And then there were 5, said Wander. This place is definitely busy today, isn't it? Well sure, said Sylvia. After all, everyone is only getting ready for possibly one of the biggest celebrations in this world ever. Yeah, along with the summer sun celebration, Twilight suddenly stated. Wander loved the sound of that. Oh, what kind of celebration is that? Will it happen soon? Sorry, said Applejack, giving Wander a little nougie, but that won't happen again for quite some time. To Twilight, this was quite a treat to be able to talk with their alien friends and catch up on things that had happened since their last visit. Come on, why don't we talk a bit over some hay burgers and fries? My treat. Hay burgers? Said Wander curiously. Do they have tomatoes and globzork sauce? Twilight, Applejack and Fluttershy had heard yet another word that they were unfamiliar of and weren't quite sure if they wanted to know what it was. Yes and no, Twilight answered, but I'm sure you'll like it anyway. Hey, any free food is good food to me, said Sylvia. Set me up, sister. As they were walking together, Fluttershy got more curious and whispered to Sylvia, what's globzork sauce made of? Sylvia smirked as she whispered the answer back to Fluttershy. Her eyes went wide of slight fright and gasped in disgust. Oh my gosh, ugh. I think I shouldn't have asked. What did I accidentally fall asleep? I can't believe that I forgot about how warm fish makes me sleepy. Wait a minute, where am I? Little Bits was just waking up after falling into a deep sleep due to consuming warm leftovers of fish. It was quite a while since she passed out and she felt stupid to even let it happen to her. She got up in the wagon she was in and was looking around to see that she was in some kind of fabric clothing shop. She also happened to look to the side and saw Rarity's cat, Opal, curled up and also asleep. Another cat? Humph, at least it's not another dog. She got out of the wagon and was planning to sneak out, but then she halted when she suddenly heard some faint voices nearby. She saw a door that led downstairs of the building and made her a curious kitty. What's going on down there? That isn't who I think it is it? She carefully went downstairs and used her soft paws to be quiet as she snuck down. She then came to an open room where she heard the familiar voices. She hid behind the wall while peeking from the corner. What she expected to see was exactly what she saw. Thank you 3 once for coming here to help me with this, said Rarity. We'll be done before the second hour with an hour to spare. After this, I suppose I could treat you three to a little something for being such good helpers." All three fillies jumped up and shouted, "Yay!" "See, Rarity, I told you, more sets of hooves is better than just one set," Sweetie Belle stated. "You should listen to me more often." "Yes, yes," said Rarity, smirking with a light glare, "less gloating and more helping if you don't mind." "So I was white," said Little Bits softly to herself. "It's those filly boits that have claimed me as their property. And I'm guessing that other white pony is the smaller white pony's big sister or something." Little Bits then got a little surprised when she heard Apple Bloom say, "Hey, how did you girls like Wander's reaction when he saw Snowball?" "Heh, typical Wander," said Scootaloo. "He was being so giddy and cooing at her so much that I almost hurled." However, Sylvia was looking at her a bit weirdly, like something was wrong. What was up with that? "What?" Little Bits exclaimed to herself. "Wander and Sylvia saw me while I was asleep. Aw, you kidding me?" She got so upset that she was baring her fangs out of frustration. But she quickly calmed down, took a deep breath and decided that it was no big deal. "Ugh, oh well. They must not have recognized me seeing that I'm Hugh and not under Sylvia's stinky foot. I guess that stupid dwack and Equus disguise twick actually worked. Go figooey." Little Bits found herself continuing to peek at what the Rarity and the Crusaders were doing, but it proved to be boring to her as she suddenly thought to herself, "Why am I still standing here? Those three seem viewy distracted, so now is the time to ditch them." She went back upstairs and was about to leave the place to continue her mission. "Time for me to head out, find that bag of mines and twack down those two wozers. Hopefully this dress won't get in my way." But then, she looked over to her side and saw the cat that she saw earlier suddenly awake and staring at her. Little Bits glared at her and said, "What are you looking at?" The cat named Opal took that as a little offensive. She scoffed and flipped her tail at Little Bits as she turned around and plopped on the ground while beginning to paw and nip at some kind of toy that Little Bits caught a glimpse of. "That's white," said Little Bits to herself as she smirked. "Just keep on playing with that little toy of yours and mind your own." But then, she had a better look of the toy that Opal had and it suddenly looked familiar to her. Wait a minute, is that? The toy was in fact no toy, but the very paw-locked backpack that she had accidentally left in a tree. Little Bits freaked out. My bag. That fooey fuzzball has my bag. How did she get her claws on it?" Luckily for her, Opal didn't seem to have put too much damage into it, so it could still be saved. Trying to avoid necessary conflict, Little Bits tried the innocent approach first as she went up to Opal with her shimmering cutesy eyes and said, "Excuse me, Miss Cat? I know that you're having some you time or something like that, but I'm afraid that is my bag that you have nestled between your paws. You must have found it where I accidentally left it. Thank you so much for that. So can I have it back?" Opal was looking at her cutesy, shimmering eyes with a nonchalant expression on her face. Did she just ignore me? That little skank just ignored me." Little Bits then got closer to Opal as she got up in her face and said in a more demanding tone, "Hey, didn't you hear me? You have something that doesn't belong to you, so give it back, please." Opal lightly glared at her and then turned away from her again. Little Bits was getting fed up with Opal's attitude and decided to no longer play nice. "So, it's going to be like that, is it? Viewy well." Little Bits then leapt towards Opal reaching for the bag, but Opal started to put up a fight hanging onto her prize. They tussled on the ground for a few seconds, but then at one point, Opal escaped Little Bits' clutches and began to run away from her. The angered kitty gave chase after her, going a little easy, thinking that it wasn't a big deal. However, this was Opal's turf, and she knew how to shake Little Bits off her tail. Every time Little Bits got close, Opal always kept confusing her steps. Pretty soon, Little Bits stopped giving chase to catch her breath. She glared up at Opal, who was smirking down at her from her scratch post, chuckling under her breath and still holding the bag. "Quite the stub-bound one, auntie, yeah. Alright, that's it, the kitty claws are coming off." With the revealing of her sharp claws, she used her speed to sneak up on Opal, and then she let out a huge hiss as she dived into her. They went all over the room, knocking down and cluttering up anything that was in their way. In the end, Little Bits finally knocked Opal away while retrieving her bag. She scoffed as she brushed herself off, but when she looked down on herself, she noticed something quite interesting of her dress. Not one tear. This dress must be magical or something. She then looked back at Opal smirking, mocking her back while tossing her bag up and down. "Oh, I'm sorry. Are you upset that I took back something that wasn't yours? If you want it back, come and get it." Opal wasn't happy that she was showed up by a kitten and the toy she had found was snatched away. She took the bait and started rushing towards Little Bits, feeling furious. But once she was close enough, Little Bits quickly opened her bag and pulled out a blaster gun that was pointed at the rushing cat and charging. Opal suddenly halted as her eyes went wide and her ears drooped down, fearing what was about to happen. Back downstairs. "I wonder if Snowball is still asleep," said Apple Bloom as he looked towards the door of the room. "Maybe I should go check on her." "Oh, relax, Apple Bloom," said Scootaloo. "She'll be fine. Let's just finish this and we can check on her then." Just then, their progress was interrupted when there was a sudden loud boom sound that shook the whole room. They all jumped in shock, and Rarity was mostly panicking. "Sweet Celestia! What was that?" Sweetie Belle went over to the doorway and looked upstairs, stating, "I may be wrong, but I think that loud boom sound came from upstairs." Rarity started to panic even more, wondering what could have happened to her stuff upstairs. No. No 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 no. As Rarity rushed upstairs, the Crusaders raced right behind her, not just because they were curious of what happened, but also because they were worried for their new kitty friend. Rarity busted through the door to the upstairs level only to find a surprise. "Opal, what happened?" Her entire workspace was a mess. Marquins were toppled over, some even broken, sewing kits were scattered everywhere, and many other things were disorganized and out of place. Luckily, most of her stuff was still in one piece, but still, she just stood silent with a big gaping expression as her sister and her friend came in and saw the mess themselves. "Whoa, this room is a mess," said Scootaloo. "I wonder who, or what did this?" Sweetie Belle suddenly looked at the corner of her eye and saw Little Bits slowly trying to sneak through the cat door that led outside. She suddenly shouted, "Snowball," and then pulled her back to them using her magic. She snuggled Little Bits against her cheek and cooed at her. "Where do you think you're going, ya silly kitten?" Little Bits lightly groaned and thought to herself, "Darn unicorns and their magic." "Thank goodness she's all right," said Apple Bloom as she approached, "and she doesn't seem freaked out or scared at all." "I don't think we can say the same thing about Opal," said Scootaloo as she was pointing at Rarity's cat. Opal was on the ground, frozen, eyes wide and her fur standing straight on end. She wasn't moving at all except her eyes that occasionally blinked. "Wow, she's been scared so stiff that she can't even move," said Sweetie Belle, "and that says a lot." "Just look at this place," said Rarity in a pitiful tone. "My fabric, disorganized, my mannequins, all scratched up, and my sewing stuff, everywhere." She then picked up her stiff cat and cuddled her in her hooves. "And on top of that, my poor Opal getting scared half to death. What kind of menace would do all of this?" "What about this huge crater in your floor?" said Apple Bloom. Rarity froze and then slowly looked where Apple Bloom was pointing at on the ground. There was a huge gaping dent in the middle of Rarity's floor, and it was a huge eyesore to the fashion pony. "WW what the, how did, WW who did, how did we miss that at first?" Sweetie Belle wondered while scratching her head. Rarity felt like crying from the state her shop was in, but she chose to take a deep breath, calm down and worry about it later, no matter how much she despised the decision. "No need to panic, no need to panic. Let's just finish what we were doing, and then I'll worry about this horrid mess." She then headed back downstairs carrying Opal in her magic embrace. "Don't worry, Opal Wopal, Mommy is here now. Everything is okay now, you can unstiffen now. Please?" The three Crusaders just stood there taking their surrounding, being curious of what could have caused all of this turmoil. "Well, this was a bit out of the blue," said Sweetie Belle, "but on the bright side, my sister took this much better than I thought. She usually reacts much worse." "I'd hate to see that," stated Scootaloo. Apple Bloom picked up Little Bits and looked at her in the eyes and said, "Hey, Snowball, you wouldn't happen to know of who or what did this, do ya?" Keeping on a cute face, Little Bits let out a little mew and then bopped Apple Bloom's nose with her paw. "Aren't ya cute?" Apple Bloom giggled. "Too bad neither of us have Fluttershy's talent. I mean, it's not like you can literally talk or anything." "Hey, check it out," said Scootaloo. When Sweetie Belle grabbed Snowball, she seemed to be reaching for this. The other Crusaders looked and saw Scootaloo holding Little Bits' bag in her mouth. Little Bits was panicking a bit on the inside, hoping that they wouldn't know of what it was. "A little backpack," said Apple Bloom. "Is that a toy or something of hers?" Scootaloo tried to open the strap that was over the front but wasn't able to do so. "Well, I can't seem open the strap, and it feels pretty stuffed, so I guess it is a toy, and it must be hers because it's definitely not Opal's. Right, Sweetie Belle? Right. I don't remember Opal having a toy like this, nor do I know of how it could have gotten here." Sweetie then placed the bag on a nearby rack for safekeeping. "I'll just put it here for now so it won't get lost." Well, come on, girls, said Scoodala going towards downstairs. Let's go give Rarity some comfort and support, and I guess Opal too. Sure thing, said Apple Bloom as placed Little Bits back in her wagon. Come on, Snowball, it's no longer safe for you to stay in this room right now. As she was pulled along, Little Bits was slightly brooding to herself, seeing that she almost got away but to no avail. She was once being held against her will, unable to continue her mission without risk of revealing her identity. Once again, as she groaned, I faywed to escape these stupid face quooches. But despite that, she found little smirk appearing back on her face, but, seeing the twifying expression on that stupid cat's face was all worth it. That'll teach her not to touch my stuff,